This program contains graphic violence and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised. Dozens of teenage boys taken, tortured for hours, then killed in cold blood.
The killing for him is very arousing.
They're victims of a power-hungry sadist that can't get enough.
He is obsessed, and there's times when he actually is killing two individuals on the same night.
A plot of a Hollywood horror film? This is a terrifying true story.
He actually had something that most killers don't. He had a graveyard underneath his house.
The original killer clown. The real monster that came before the movies It, Clown House, and many others. Behind the screams. Chicago, Illinois. Norwood Park is a quaint neighborhood, just a short drive from O'Hare International Airport. It's a sunny day in 1975 when 18-year-old Johnny Bukovic and two of his friends arrive at the residential office of PDM Contractors.
Let's go.
The owner often hires young, unskilled workers to keep costs down. Sometimes he doesn't pay them anything at all. Johnny's had enough.
Open up! Come on, man, I know you're in there.
Johnny!
You need to pay me right now!
The two men argue for hours.
I keep telling you, I have the money. It's just been an accounting problem.
You have it? You have it now?
No, I have it.
Johnny
in the
threatens
account.
to expose his boss's sketchy business practices.
You're absolutely right. I'm sorry this has happened. Listen, I'll tell
But
you
in
what.
the end, he realizes he's not getting what he came for.
Johnny, I'll give you every penny I owe you.
He leaves with his friends. This should be the end of the story. But after leaving his boss's home, young Johnny Bukovic suddenly disappears. The next morning, his parents suspect something terrible has happened. Johnny's father comes across his son's car only a few blocks away from his home, and the key is still inside. Johnny loves his car. He'd been saving up to race it. He'd never leave it that way.
Chicago Precinct 14.
The local police receive an urgent call from Mr. Bukovic. He frantically alerts them to his son's disappearance.
Unit T, George 5, 2700 block of 150.
Arriving at the scene, Officer Burkhardt of Chicago PD approaches the driver's side door. Peering in through the window, he sees a key in the ignition. But there's more inside. The young man's checkbook has been left in the glove box. His wallet is in the center console, and it's filled with cash. It's undeniably suspicious. Still, these abandoned items aren't proof of foul play. Burkhardt heads back to the station to file a report. Weeks later, the police still have no leads. But Johnny's parents won't give up. His father keeps calling the police over and over.
Chicago Precinct 14.
He remembers his son had a wage dispute and had gone to see his boss. Then, he vanished. But Johnny's boss is someone the police would never suspect. He's a respected businessman and a prominent member of the local community. Still, Officer Burkhardt contacts him about the young boy. The contractor tells him Johnny Bukovic did come to his house with two friends. He says those witnesses can confirm the boy left his place just fine. Where he went from there is a mystery. Over the next 3 years, this same mystery plays out again and again in Chicago. Young men keep going missing. The ones reported to police remain unsolved.
This is the 1970s. This is a period of time when hitchhiking was still very popular. It wasn't unusual for people to travel distances, to go periods of time without actually identifying where they were. So it's hard to go back and determine where someone goes missing if you're not sure precisely where they should have been.
For a predator that stalks human prey, 70s Chicago is the perfect hunting ground. Street after street of young boys willing to ride with nearly anyone who offers to get them high.
Generally, there's a preference for a certain type of victim. They want victims that are vulnerable, victims that aren't going to be sought out quickly by police. So you choose high-risk victims, which is why prostitutes are such an easy target for offenders. Or you get young men engaged in prostitution activities, or you get drifters, people wandering around looking for a job that, they're not from the area. These are very vulnerable individuals, people that will go missing and people won't be looking for them.
Then, 3 years after Johnny Bukovic goes missing, 26-year-old Jeffrey Rignall rushes into another Chicago police precinct.
There's a guy trying to kill me, and I think he almost did.
He's clearly traumatized. From the bruises on his face, detectives expect the worst.
I need to know where you were. I was leaving Williamsburg. There's this dude in a black sedan.
Rignall tells them his horrifying story. 2 days earlier, he's walking home when he notices a big black car cruising right behind him.
Hey,
The driver invites him to hop in and smoke a joint.
you want to get high?
The man seems friendly enough,
All right. Right on.
so Rignall doesn't hesitate to hop in.
All right.
All right, let's go.
When we're looking at serial offenders and how they select their victims, oftentimes they're picking very vulnerable individuals. They're reading individuals. They're very good at reading people and what they want. So if this individual is looking for drugs, I'm the individual that can supply those drugs. Then they need to disarm the individual, and they need to get them alone. They need to get them vulnerable.
But as soon as the car pulls away, the man pounces, shoving a rag over his nose and mouth. It's soaked with a sweet-smelling liquid, probably chloroform. He wakes several times during the ride, briefly catching glimpses of streetlights on the expressway and signs. Then, the kidnapper puts the rag back over his mouth, and everything goes black. And the worst is yet to come. When he regains consciousness, he finds himself inside the predator's home. He's been stripped naked. His hands are locked in some sort of torture restraint, and the man from the car looms over him ominously. His face, so friendly and innocent before, now twists into a maniacal, obscene grin. He slowly steps forward, picks up a short, blunt object from the floor, and attacks.
I think you need to smile.
For hours and hours, he's raped, whipped, and beaten. All at the hands of the brutal sadist. Over and over, the assailant uses chloroform to knock him out. And each time he wakes up, the nightmare begins again. Then, after countless hours of pain, in a rare and inexplicable moment of mercy, the sadistic monster dumps Rignall in a park, alive, but unconscious. Battered and disoriented, the tortured young man goes straight to the police.
Can you tell me the ethnicity? He's a white guy. He's a white guy.
The detectives believe Jeffrey Rignall's frightening story,
Okay, so, sir, right now, all I know is that he was a white man with a mustache.
Yeah.
Can you tell
but without a name, an address, or a solid description of his abductor, there's very little they can do. The one unique detail Rignall does remember, the car, a black Oldsmobile. Also, he remembers seeing an exit sign on the expressway as he drifted in and out of consciousness. The leads are insignificant. For the detectives, it's not enough information to open an investigation.
Investigators know they're looking at a serious crime, a crime of battery of one form or another, but they don't have any good clues. They don't have an identity of who this guy actually is. In fact, they have nothing to work with.
Angry and frustrated, he takes matters into his own hands and launches his own investigation. He decides to go on a stakeout at the exit ramp he remembers from his nightmare experience. It's a long shot. Thousands of cars travel this busy expressway every day. But if he can spot that one car, he might be able to bring the depraved attacker to justice.
What are the odds that you could sit at a location knowing nothing about the pattern of the predator and actually see the same car that was used in your crime? Pretty slim odds. That's why, for the most part, detectives probably wouldn't even take that approach. But here, Rignall decides this is the only approach I can take. I only know one thing about this guy for sure. I know where he snatched me.
But it looks like a needle in a haystack. Weeks turn to months, and there's no sign of the black Oldsmobile. But just when Rignall's about to give up, he sees it. It's heading northwest into the suburbs. He can hardly believe it. It's definitely the same car. And the chase is on.
You got to give Rignall a lot of credit, because he was able to do something that most agencies can't even finance. He spent a period of months looking at the scene, a surveillance basically, and actually identified the car that he was taken from.
Rignall discreetly follows the car into the neighborhood of Norwood Park. As it stops outside 8213 Summerdale Avenue, Rignall is confident he's found the location where he was attacked and tortured. Armed with a license plate number and a residential address, he goes straight to the police, and they identify the man behind his abduction, John Wayne Gacy. Gacy is a very public figure. He's a respected Chicago businessman who lives in a nice suburban neighborhood with a wife and 2 stepdaughters.
He's reputable. He's involved with business. He's well known in the community. He's a good neighbor.
Thank you very much.
He's politically active.
I'm very proud of this.
He's involved as a precinct captain. The scary thing about cases like this is that Gacy, like other predators, he's not hiding. He's actually very, very comfortable out in the open. And as a matter of fact, he's established himself in a way that would put him beyond suspicion. He's even photographed with First Lady Rosalind Carter. These are the kinds of things that give you cover so you can hide in plain sight.
And that's not all. In his spare time, Gacy polishes his public persona as a member of the Jolly Joker Clown Club.
For Gacy, this is just simply another way of being like the guy everybody likes. I mean, how could you not like a clown? It allows him essentially to dress up in face paint and, act in a way that he probably wouldn't normally act when he's not in costume.
Hey kids, it's Pogo the Clown!
Gacy creates his own costume and takes the name Pogo the Clown. Performing for kids at birthday parties and local hospitals.
It's just another piece of this public persona that keeps people thinking he's just your average great guy in the city, in the neighborhood, very helpful, and look, he even entertains children.
Oh, I can't wait to share some birthday gags with you.
3 years earlier, when 18-year-old Johnny Bukovic disappeared, police spoke briefly with Gacy. At that time, due to his positive reputation in the community and the fact that no one could directly connect him to the boy's disappearance, they quickly dismissed him as a suspect. Now, there's someone who has evidence. Rignall has seen Gacy's dark side, but without a corroborating witness, the only charge police can file in the Jeffrey Rignall case is battery. It's a minor offense with a fine of just $100 and no jail time.
So why are you asking questions and not getting up?
Rignall is furious.
Remember that months have now transpired between the point of the attack and the point of the arrest. The opportunity to go back and collect physical evidence that would either corroborate Rignall's version of the story or Gacy's version of the story has now vanished because so many months have transpired. And that's why this is a difficult case to really even try, because you have a one-on-one, one person's word against somebody else, and probably little or no forensic evidence to corroborate one side or the other. Gacy's ultimately arrested for this battery. But very common to other kinds of crimes, doesn't mean he's going to stay in custody. And in fact, this is not unusual to have somebody be out of custody awaiting trial. And that's exactly what happens with Gacy. In fact, he's out of custody for a long period of time waiting to go to trial on the Rignall case.
With his slap on the wrist misdemeanor trial pending, Gacy quickly falls off the police radar. In his private life, he may be a deviant, but in public, he's still seen as a pillar of the community. For police, John Wayne Gacy's community service makes him a civic hero. On the other hand, his accuser, Jeffrey Rignall, openly admits to police that he's bisexual. It's a dangerous confession in the late 70s, and it labels Rignall a sexual deviant in the eyes of many.
Chicago Precinct 14.
Meanwhile, every few weeks, police get another call from the parents of young Johnny Bukovic, the boy who worked for Gacy and disappeared mysteriously 3 years earlier after they had an argument.
You need to pay me right now!
And Johnny isn't alone. The number of missing teenagers in Chicago keeps growing. 19 young men have vanished. Most are never even reported to police. The ones that are quickly get dismissed as runaways. If these cases are linked in any way, without witnesses, there's almost no way for police detectives, spread out over multiple precincts and jurisdictions, to make a connection.
It's a real detriment to law enforcement because you have a lot of cases that really are linked, but there's no ability to link them because the individual law enforcement agencies aren't aware of the other cases.
Remember, we're in the 70s. This is pre-internet. This is really computers being able to do the kinds of databasing we do today. It's pre-technology for DNA and other kind of forensic technology. It's pre-social media. Your smartphone today can identify where you are. It's pre any of that. We're looking at a time in history in which someone could go missing and there'd be little or no trail online, little or no trail forensically that would help investigators solve such a case.
Then, there's a break that could finally solve these mysterious disappearances.
My son is missing.
9 months after Rignall's brutal abduction, Des Plaines, Illinois officer Ron Adams takes a statement from a very frightened mother.
Please, you've got to help me.
Named Elizabeth Peast. She says her 15-year-old son, Robert, is missing. And unlike previous cases, Robert is a model child with no motive to run off.
Robert Peast is unusual. He's different than the other missing young men. He's an outlier in the sense that he's the kind of guy who's connected to his family. He's close to his parents. His parents have an expectation when they're going to see him, when they're not going to see him. If he goes missing for a short period of time, they're alarmed.
When's the last time you saw him?
I went to Nissan's drugstore where he worked.
He goes missing on the night of his mother's birthday. It's very unusual for Robert. They've got a close relationship, and they don't expect this kind of behavior from him. And for that reason, the detectives take this very seriously.
Earlier that evening, Mrs. Peast is waiting to drive her son Robert home from his current job at a local pharmacy when he asks her to wait a little longer.
I gotta meet with him. It's gonna be twice as much as the pharmacy job.
are you
Really
meeting
good
with?
money, Ma. 2 minutes.
Who are you meeting with?
He says he has a lead on a new job for the summer. He runs off to talk to the potential employer. Young Robert never returns. It's a parent's worst nightmare. And his mother has no idea how real and terrifying this nightmare truly is. Her son's current boss says the name of the man Robert went to see
I had a guy in here before. He was talking to me about some shelving. It's a contractor.
Yeah.
is John Gacy. That night at the precinct, police take Mrs. Peast's story very seriously.
And turned the corner, and he never came back.
Lieutenant Joe Kozenzak is the chief of detectives at Des Plaines PD. And this case hits especially close to home. Kozenzak also has a teenage son. And he attends the same high school as Robert Peast. It's not hard for him to imagine what Mrs. Peast is going through. It's almost as if he's searching for his own child.
And you find that Gacy. He's the last person to see Robbie.
Using the name John Gacy and a phone number supplied by the boy's boss, Kozenzak contacts Chicago Police Headquarters to see if this mysterious contractor has any prior convictions. What he finds is very disturbing. Digging through records from multiple precincts, he finds out John Wayne Gacy has a serious criminal history involving young men and boys.
We know that offenders choose, especially serial offenders, tend to have a particular victim type that they're looking for. When you see a particular sex being targeted, a particular age range being targeted, it starts to really sort of raise your hackles.
His rap sheet shows the recent case involving 26-year-old Jeffrey Rignall. That criminal trial is still pending. But there's more. 10 years earlier, Gacy was convicted in Iowa of sodomizing a 15-year-old boy, the same age as Robert Peast. He served just 18 months of a 10-year prison sentence. Clearly, moving to another state and building his reputation as an upstanding citizen did not curb his deviant appetites.
Gacy has a very clear definition of what is legal and what is not legal. He understands that, but he doesn't care. He just simply chooses to do wrong without any consequences because that's what makes him feel good.
Detective Kozenzak knows the boy is in serious danger, and every second counts.
It's not a cliche to say that the first 48 hours of an investigation are critical because it's all about evidence and what evidence is still available to us. At some point, evidence either deteriorates because of the nature of the evidence, if it's biological, for example, or a suspect has the opportunity to dispose of evidence. So that's why we want to work quickly. It's not just in figuring out who did it, it's about preserving the evidence that points to the person who did it.
Detective Kozenzak and another officer head to Gacy's home on Summerdale Avenue. They want to question the suspect face to face. They're also praying they'll find teenage Robert inside the man's home, unharmed.
Hi, Mr. John Gacy?
Yes?
But when Gacy opens the door, there's no sign of anyone else inside.
He spoke with you?
No, I don't.
The contractor denies ever meeting Robert Peast. He says his uncle just died. He doesn't have time to talk about missing boys he's never met. Gacy wants them to leave so he can speak to his mourning mother.
This may not be a good time, sir, but we just need to clear a few things up.
Lieutenant Kozenzak is suspicious. He thinks this story is smoke and mirrors. Deceased uncle or not.
I need you to come down, sir.
Kozenzak knows Gacy's hiding something.
Detectives are always looking for some form of evidence in everything they do. Sometimes that evidence is just behavior. It's just what somebody says and how they say it, the things they chose to say, the things they could have said but chose not to say, expressions. These are the things that are important to detectives.
But Kozenzak can tell he's not getting any more out of Gacy right now. He asks the contractor to come to the station and make a formal statement later that evening.
Fine.
Reluctantly, Gacy agrees. Gacy's criminal record makes his possible involvement in the disappearance of Robert Piest very disturbing. But it also gives Lieutenant Kozenzak hope. The contractor may be a sexual predator, but there's no evidence he's a killer. Robert may still be alive, but the clock is ticking. Kozenzak needs a search warrant. Now.
The problem with many of these cases is trying to develop enough probable cause to write a search warrant so you can actually find the evidence you need to make the case. And if you're standing on the outside, you don't have much information to begin with, it's hard to do that.
This offender is not going to stop, and your concern as an investigator is, what can I do now to get this guy identified and get him stopped?
Lieutenant Kozenzak contacts the state's attorney. He's short on physical evidence, but Gacy's criminal record and the witness testimony that says Robert went to speak to the convict contractor right before he disappeared is enough to secure the warrant he needs.
Hey, fellas.
Later that day, when Gacy finally shows up to make a formal statement, his demeanor is calm and confident. He has no idea he's walking into a trap.
He sees himself as infallible. There's no way the police are going to catch me. I am just that good. That's the way he looks at himself. And oftentimes that's the undoing for individuals like this.
Kozenzak serves him the warrant and requests the keys to Gacy's house and vehicles.
You can't do this.
Gacy's volatile reaction says everything.
You can't have my keys. I know your boss. I will have your jobs for this.
There's obviously something he doesn't want them to see.
You have no idea who you're dealing with.
Gacy is clearly a very clever, cunning man, but there's even something more disturbing about it. There's a sense here that Gacy thinks that he's got more experience in this than the people who are investigating him. And he acts that way. He's very bold, he's very brazen, he's leaving things out, he's not covering all of his tracks. There's a sense that he's very comfortable doing what he's doing.
With Gacy at the station, Lieutenant Kozenzak heads to the contractor's home. His heart is racing. It's been nearly 2 days since 15-year-old Robert Piest vanished. Trapped by a vile predator like Gacy, it would be naive to think that Robert's unharmed. But Kozenzak prays he's still alive. Stepping inside, Kozenzak and the other detectives spread out. Going room to room, they search every inch of Gacy's home.
Detectives are always trying to connect the dots. You're trying to find those pieces of evidence that connect your victim to your suspect, especially if the suspect has denied having any extended contact with the victim, or has maybe even denied knowing the victim. I'm looking for something that betrays the lie. That can be personal property from the victim. It could be his jewelry. It could be clothing from the victim. It could be anything like this that connects victims to suspects.
They find gay pornographic videos, magazines, and sex toys. A set of nickel-plated handcuffs, and something far more disturbing. A 2x4 with human restraints at either end. It's a device someone like Gacy might use for sexual torture. But that's not all they find. In the kitchen trash, there's a film developing receipt from Nissan Pharmacy, where Robert Piest worked. Gacy also has a suspicious assortment of personal effects that clearly are not his own. A class ring with the initials JAS. Underwear that's too small to fit a man his size. And a blue hooded coat, similar to one Robert Piest wore the night he disappeared. Then, while pulling items from a closet, Kozenzak sees something unexpected. A trap door leading down under the house. Reaching down, he slides his hand under the door and slowly begins to lift it up. Robert could be trapped below, or worse. Is this a crawl space or a deadly tomb? The air inside the dank, dungeon-like area is thick with a musty smell. But the dirt appears undisturbed. and there's no sign of the young boy. Removing the evidence they've collected, Kozenzak and his team leave Gacy's home. What he's found so far is chilling. But before he can make an arrest, he still needs solid proof Robert Piest was in Gacy's home. He wants to keep close tabs on the predator. He instructs his team to follow Gacy wherever he goes, day and night.
What's interesting here is if you know your suspect is kind of baiting you in a way, thinks he's more clever than you are, then this surveillance, him knowing you're watching him, may actually play in your favor because he may want to do something in response to your surveillance.
Hi, may I speak to Carol, please?
Kozenzak does some further investigating into Gacy's past.
I just have a couple questions I want to ask you about your ex-husband. Do you have a few minutes to talk to me?
He contacts Gacy's ex-wife, Carol. She has some very interesting things to say about her former husband. While they were married, Gacy would often go out without explanation. And as their marriage began to fall apart, he stopped concealing his sexual appetites, even telling her the kind of young men he preferred.
Carol had seen wild mood swings, had seen acts of violence in the course of their marriage, but when she discovered that he had a sexual appetite that she wasn't aware of, that changed everything.
Okay.
And that's not all. She tells Lieutenant Kozenzak that a former employee of Gacy, Johnny Bukovic, also disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
You need to pay me right now!
At the time, Gacy was questioned and dismissed as a suspect. But now, it's very suspicious. The list of missing boys connected to Gacy grows bigger and bigger.
Oh, Mrs. Piest.
Hi, Detective.
Then, Kozenzak gets his big break when Robert Piest's mother checks in on the status of the case, and she has some new information.
Robbie had a receipt.
She remembers that the night her son disappeared, a coworker put a Nissan Pharmacy film developing receipt into the pocket of Robert's blue coat. Kozenzak is stunned. He races over to the table of evidence, and right there, in an evidence bag, is a Nissan Pharmacy film developing receipt. It's the smoking gun he's been searching for. He immediately calls the pharmacy and confirms.
323-1349. It is a match? Fantastic, thank you.
The numbers on the receipt found in Gacy's home perfectly match the film envelope at the store. Gacy said he never even met the teenager. But this is undeniable evidence. Robert Piest was in Gacy's home. Kozenzak believes without a doubt that Gacy is responsible for the disappearance of Robert Piest and several other young men. But without a body or proof Gacy harmed the missing teenager, getting a second search warrant will be tough. Amazingly, Kozenzak gets help from Gacy himself. The contractor becomes very cocky, even inviting the officers inside his home.
How bold is that? How risky is that? But for him, in his mind, he thinks, I have got all of this completely under control.
Let's go.
There's a cat and mouse relationship here, it seems, between Gacy and the detectives who he invites into his house at some point, as if to say, hey, you can't make a case against me. I'm clever enough to be able to avoid detection. I'm clever enough to be able to fool you.
Well, fellas, what can I do for you?
Well, we appreciate you giving us a moment of your time, Mr. Gacy. We just have a couple of routine questions to ask you, hoping you might be able to help us out.
We're always trying to develop probable cause for the next search warrant. The problem is right now I've got not enough probable cause to do a search warrant. But if you're going to invite me in, well then trust me, I'm going to find a way to look for the pieces of evidence I need to have the probable cause to do an in-depth search.
How's business going, by the way?
Oh, it's good, it's good. Business is booming. I got about 15 employees right now. Takes up a lot of my time, though. Keeps me away from my passion.
As the men talk, the topic quickly turns to Gacy's love for clowns.
I'm a professional clown on weekends for charities, kids' parties. Pogo the Clown!
Then, out of the blue, Gacy says something that shows just how little he fears the law.
Oh yeah, detective, I tell you. Clowns are where it's at. A clown can get away with murder.
While one officer keeps him talking, another steps away to use the bathroom. And just as he flushes, the heating vents suddenly kick on. A strangely sweet, putrid odor seeps into the room. There's no denying that smell, and it's coming from under the house. It smells like a morgue.
If I'm the investigator, there's a bone-chilling moment here. There's a moment, an aha moment that's horrific, and that's that moment when you actually smell death coming up from the heater underneath the house. Death has a particular smell, and you learn it pretty quickly as an investigator. Even if you haven't worked a case where someone's been dead for a period of days, if you do an autopsy or go to an autopsy as an investigator, you're gonna smell that. And once you've smelled it once, you never forget it. Death's got a very particular smell, and virtually nothing else can account for that smell.
You're kidding.
It's all Lieutenant Kozenzak needs. Gacy's criminal record involving young boys, the matching photo receipt from Nissan Pharmacy, and the deathly odor coming from under his home is enough proof to get a second search warrant. Meanwhile, as if Gacy knows they're closing in, his behavior becomes more and more erratic. He drives recklessly. Then, suddenly, he veers off the road, walks up to a total stranger, and slides a bag of drugs into his back pocket, right in front of police.
He is an individual who has a very, very high opinion of himself. I think he's very narcissistic. I'm untouchable. The police simply haven't got the wherewithal to do anything with me.
Amazingly, with all the evidence mounting against Gacy in the disappearance of several young men,
Come on. Is this really necessary?
it's a simple drug offense that gets him arrested. Now, with Gacy in custody and armed with a new search warrant, this time with a team of evidence technicians, Kozenzak has entered Gacy's home again. And there's no question where they'll begin the search. The crawl space under the house.
This is a missing persons investigation, so you're looking for the person who's missing, and that means you're looking for a body. Especially if you think you've smelled death coming from underneath this house to begin with, your fear is probably that there's a dead person under the house.
They begin digging in the hard-packed dirt. Almost immediately, they find something truly horrifying. A human bone. And the more they dig, the more they find. It's not just one victim. There are dozens of bodies.
He had a graveyard underneath his house. When we typically read about these kinds of gruesome finds, we read about it very briefly. It's in a newspaper article. You don't put yourself in the position of the people who actually had to do it. I think when you work a case in which you get to a crime scene that's horrific, where the level of mayhem that's been performed is just beyond the pale, those are the ones that are the hardest to process. The investigators, the detectives who actually had to sift through this evidence, had to touch the bodies, had to move these bodies. It's the kind of thing that you cannot just leave it at the crime scene. This is a horrific experience. It is very troubling. It's very hard to just do it and remain calm, remain detached.
It's apparent Gacy was too arrogant to think he'd ever get caught.
He feels that he can bury his victims on his own property under his house, which of course becomes very problematic if they're discovered. But for him, he doesn't see that as a problem because in his mind, he is so much smarter than the police that I am actually able to do this. I can actually bury people on my own property. That way I know where they are, I have control over them, I know that the police haven't discovered them. There's no way the police are going to catch me.
Mr. Gacy.
Kozenzak returns to police headquarters and confronts Gacy with their discovery.
We found multiple bodies.
Kozenzak is staring into the cold, dead eyes of a psychopath.
One of the hallmarks of being a psychopath is this complete lack of remorse for the victims and their abject lack of empathy for the victims. They simply do not care. What they're interested in is what's important to them. So if torturing somebody is important to them, then they're going to engage in it. Killing somebody means almost nothing to them.
Boy, he was a pain. Kind of had it coming.
In Gacy's case, despite the fact that the police had dug up these victims out of his crawl space and from underneath his house, Gacy is completely unaffected by the enormity of what he's done.
I showed him the rope trick. You use a rope, but if you just use your hands, they struggle way too much.
If it feels good to Gacy, that's all that matters. How the victim feels is unimportant. The victim is just a tool I'm using to feel good. And when I'm done with the victim, I just dispose of them. They're just like trash. I get rid of them. And I don't have any more concern about dumping this young man under my house and throwing quicklime on him than I would with throwing away a cardboard box.
You do a little double loop, and you put a stick in there, and then you twist it.
Gacy casually admits he strangled Robert Piest and threw his body off a bridge, just like a piece of garbage.
There was no room under the house.
For serial offenders, people are simply objects to be used, to be stepped on, to be hurt, and there's no empathy, no thought about that. They're predators, and they are only out for themselves. And because they have this complete lack of empathy, they simply can murder somebody in a most cruel and unusual way, and then moments later be completely unbothered by this.
You're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in the court of law.
Disgusted, Lieutenant Kozenzak reads him his rights and arrests him for murder. The scale of Gacy's butchery is unimaginable. Police find a total of 27 bodies in his home. 26 buried in the crawl space, with one additional victim hidden underneath the concrete of his garage. It's Johnny Bukovic, the young man who disappeared 3 years ago after arguing with Gacy.
If you look at it in terms of possession and control, even in death, he has control of these victims because they're right there. They're right under his house. He knows where they are. And that really is the ultimate in control.
But these are only some of Gacy's victims. The serial killer confesses he ran out of room under his home.
And all that digging? Hell on your back.
And began dumping dead bodies into the Des Plaines River.
He thought about putting bodies in his attic, but thought that would become problematic. So really, as a matter of simply disposing of the bodies, he actually started taking them to the river, throwing them off the bridge.
How many? He can't remember. And one missing body police are desperate to recover is Robert Piest.
This whole search was dictated by a missing person. So the first thing you're looking for in this kind of a search is a body. And that's what they're actually looking for evidentially, is the remains of something they can identify as a human body.
Over the next 5 months, police pull body after body out of the river. Then, finally, they discover young Robert's remains. And in a cruel twist of fate, His final resting place is in an area of the river he and his father used to travel by canoe. It's much needed closure for the victims' families and Lieutenant Joe Kozenzak. At least now, Gacy will finally answer for his crimes. March 1980. After 5 weeks of testimony from more than 100 witnesses, jurors began deliberations. There was no doubt Gacy killed all of the boys, but was he legally insane when he did it?
Gacy ultimately admitted to these killings. So the issue is not whether he did it or not. The issue is, was he crazy? Is that his excuse? Can he use insanity as his plea? Can he use insanity as his way out of any kind of a criminal charge? The problem, of course, is if you look at the history of how he did these murders, the methodical way, he's got a very consistent pattern. He does things the exact same way. Only when he makes small changes in his pattern does he expose himself to risk. These are the maneuvers of somebody who's clever, not crazy.
In just 2 hours, jurors returned a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, John Wayne Gacy,
Guilty on all 33 counts of first-degree murder.
What's fascinating about Gacy, like other serial killers, is the fact that no one suspected him until investigators actually did an investigation. It's really hard for people to imagine that guy could do that. Really? You're telling me that this guy who I know and I go to business meetings with and I've been involved in political fundraisers with, I know this guy pretty well. He's capable of that? No way. It shocks us.
What people really want is when we have a serial killer, when we have this really disturbing series of murders, we want the behavior in that crime to match the complexity of the offender. We want to see the monster. We want to be able to recognize that we are dealing with a serial killer. The fact is that almost never happens. It almost never happens. The reason that these individuals are so successful is that they look just like you and I. They aren't the monster. They're your next door neighbor who has that secret life. They've got the public life, and that's the life they let you see. That's why neighbors are always talking about on television shows. He seemed like the nicest guy. He always said hi to me in the morning. He was always walking his dog, took care of his garden. That's the public face that we get to see for these guys. We never get to see the private life or the secret life for these individuals. And it's very disturbing for people. They want to know that if I see a serial killer, I can recognize him. It's never gonna happen. That's what makes serial killers successful, is that they don't look like the monster. They just look like you and me. And sometimes really, you know, they're the antithesis of what we would think a serial offender should be like.
It's hereby recommended that the defendant be executed.
John Wayne Gacy, considered one of the most vicious serial killers in U.S. history, was sentenced to death.
Even when they're pushing the cocktail, the deadly cocktail, into his arm, he's being executed, he still is taking control. He still tells them, "Kiss my ass." He still thinks that he's in control. And that really was the hallmark of his entire career.
Gacy's vile acts, his unquenchable appetite for young men, and murder, and his bizarre fascination with a favorite children's entertainer, clowns, has completely changed the way we see these previously innocent, painted performers. And this new face of horror continues to inspire countless villains, each one more disturbing than the last.
There's something horrific about the clown figure that Gacy represents. And our culture has kind of exploited that. You'll see costumes now on Halloween that are evil clown costumes. That all stems and starts with Gacy.
That's what makes serial killers successful, is that they don't look like the monster. And sometimes really, you know, they're the antithesis of what we would think a serial offender should be like.
A mass grave of missing boys, sadistic sexual torture, and a clown-obsessed murderer behind it all. These things shouldn't be real, but they are. It's the true story of John Wayne Gacy, the original killer clown behind the screens.